Welcome to Fiery Discourse, your podcast for media featuring dragonesses, female dinosaurs, and other similar saurians and scalies. I'm your host, Ludmillanon, and with me are my co-hosts, Angron, Mathmachine, and LuckyEevee. Today is our 12th episode, and we're discussing Eragon from 2006, so let's get things started. Yep, so this basically, one thing that is funny with the movie industry, as soon as there's a movie that's a big success, everybody tries knocking it off. You had Jaws led to a bunch of killer animal movies. You had Airport led to a bunch of airplane disaster movies. And of course, Lord of the Rings, and to a lesser extent, also Harry Potter, led to a lot of fantasy movies in the mid to late 2000s. There was a lot of these. And I've never read the original books, so I can't say about the quality of basically the books compared to the movie, so we can't really do that. I do know that with this movie, I actually have kind of a history with it. I actually went to see it on Christmas Day 2006. Like, we went out to a restaurant, then we went to the movies, and we went to see, this movie. And even at that age, I was like maybe 12 years old at that time, I felt really, really ripped off with it. It's not a bad movie per se, but it's not what you were expecting with all like the advertising and the posters and that. I feel like with this movie, it's not a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination. My biggest problem with it is that it just is very generic, and it definitely, in like almost every single corner of the movie, you could tell it is so desperately trying to be Middle Earth. And like every aspect. And again, I haven't read the book, so I can't compare it. But it can't be as derivative as Tolkien as, say, like this movie was.
I actually kind of disagree. I think that because it was just so generic, so bland, so just... I've seen this movie a dozen different times and I've never watched it kind of thing, that it is actually worse than something like In the Name of the King, because at least...
Oh, no, because at least In the Name of the King, right, you at least would at least acknowledge that it's so bad it's good. It has stuff like, Ray Liotta trying to be an evil wizard when he still sounds like he's playing Henry Hill. Stuff like that. But as this, for example, is just... It's one of those movies, I think, that you put on the background while you're, like, working at your house or something. It's on, like, a Sunday afternoon. You see it on, you just play it on for background noise. I feel like that is basically the perfect definition of this movie in a nutshell.
Yeah, it's background movies, but it's not really that bad of a background movie. Personally, there were a lot of things in it that I did kind of see it being somewhat Lord of the Rings, somewhat Star Wars, surprisingly. But honestly, it never really... actually, on that note, it's actually more like Star Wars rather than just flat out
Lord of the Rings. It definitely is like A New Hope with dragons, which of course you think it'd be awesome, but as you can see, this really doesn't work.
It is just not for the right reasons. I mean,
exactly.
We'll get to the reasons why later.
Of course.
But yeah.
Yeah. Well, apparently this is going to be a lot more like Lord of the Rings because the original person they wanted to play Eragon was none other than Elijah Wood. And their second choice was going to be Shia LaBeouf. So that would have been very weird. But both choices are like... I can't really see either of them. I mean, Elijah Wood, he's a fantastic actor. I even like the stuff he's doing now. Like, say, what was the movie with him with the Father Come to Daddy and stuff like that. I even like the stuff he's doing now. But I feel like for this kind of role, this really is, and again, you said like A New Hope, this really is, Eragon is basically Luke Skywalker. And it's funny that I remember with the villain as well, that on all the posters and all the marketing material, Galbatorix, played by John Malkovich, is always promoted as the main villain. He's barely in the movie. It's like his second in command, Durza the Wizard, that's actually the main villain. And I think the reason why, Galbatorix isn't in the movie that much, John Cusack took control of his body again and had him leave the set. Had him quit his film career and go back to puppeteering again. But yeah, this definitely is derivative of other works because Eragon's mark on his hand, the E, insignia, is a lot like Harry Potter's scar, you could say.
One could make that comparison,
Yeah.
sort of.
And
But
again,
I mean, in fairness, it has a valid reason for existing.
no, it definitely was put in there actually because it makes sense. It's the mark of the dragon rider and that, which again, it is a really, really cool concept. And it does do some good things right. I will say that some of the effects, especially for 2006, especially a major one, which we'll be talking about in a little while, are really, really well done. The idea of like the smoke dragons are definitely cool.
Yeah, dark magic dragons.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, full disclosure, if they had gone ahead with a sequel, I personally wouldn't have minded it. It probably would have been the same thing. It probably would have been worse. It probably would have been better somewhat. But I kind of wanted to see this come to somewhat of an end.
Yeah, no, I can definitely agree with you. What happened was they were actually going to do like Lord of the Rings. They were going to film both sequels back to back. What happened was that apparently, and again, I haven't read the book, so I can't say, they changed so much from the book, so much that it would actually be physically impossible to do a sequel. They actually changed so much that they couldn't continue with the story because they completely altered like complete character motivations. They altered, entire sequences and that if you made a sequel, you pretty much would have to write one completely from scratch. Couldn't actually use the book sequels, which that is insane,
I mean, honestly, if it was its own thing, I wouldn't have minded as much.
No, me either. And you're also right with it not feeling complete because that's the exact same thing with like a Ralph Bakshi's Lord of the Rings animated movies.
That's true.
It stops at like the Two Towers. And again, they were going to make a sequel, but the movie underperformed, so we didn't get the full story.
Yeah.
Technically, we got that weird Return of the King animated movie from 1980 that's
Rankin Bass.
Yeah, Rankin Bass. That kind of, sort of is a sequel, but not really. It's its own thing, but it's also a sequel. It's a very, very strange one. But anyway, back to Eragon. So yeah, the acting in this movie, for the most part, is very wooden, very theatrical, but not in a good way. I feel like they're just a lot of them
harmless.
Can't seem to get. It's harmless, yeah, but like Eragon himself and like the elf princess Anya, they definitely seem kind of wooden in a way. Like they can't really get a grasp of their characters. Also, by the way, fun fact: the elf princess was going to be played by Emily Blunt. That means that this movie would have almost starred Frodo Baggins and Tempest Shadow. Yeah, but definitely one guy who definitely does put a lot of effort in this was Jeremy Irons, who plays, of course, the Wizard Braun, who definitely, okay, you talk about like A New Hope. He definitely 150% is Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah.
Like 100. You could just, like, as soon as he steps on the screen, you could actually basically say, oh yeah, they're just doing Obi-Wan again. But Jeremy Irons sells it because he is a fantastic actor. I mean, he was the best part in this, or one of the best parts in this, and in another bad fantasy movie from the 2000s, the Dungeons and Dragons movie. The original one.
Honor Among Thieves.
Yeah, no, he was in the original Dungeons and Dragons movie, which is not a good one. No, that is a really bad movie. Like, but he was in of course, he was Scar in Lion King. He's really good in a movie that I think is really underrated and no one talks about. The 2002 version of The Time Machine. He's the Uber Morlock in that, and he's really, really good.
Morlock. Flesh-eating Morlock.
Yeah, exactly. They're not like that. They're not like that version. They're actually more like predators in that version. But anyway, back to Eragon. Enough with the tangents here.
Back to Eragon.
Yeah. I do like the idea of the telepathic communication between the riders and the dragons. It definitely is something that really hasn't come up in fantasy a lot, and it's one thing that you see it and you wonder, why didn't they do this sooner? Why didn't anybody come up with this idea before? It's like something that it took until the 2000s or someone to come up with that idea. And yeah, basically the best character in the movie, and he's honestly a better protagonist than Eragon, is Murtaugh. He definitely is, I don't know. he definitely is like the Han Solo of the group. Again, the New Hope comparison.
He came in last minute, so he doesn't really count.
Yeah, exactly. But he definitely is. I think what it is number one, his characterization. Number two, it's just that I don't know. It seems like the actor who's playing him is actually giving a pretty decent performance, all things considered.
Yeah, he seemed to be one of the few people that was actually trying with this.
Yeah, exactly. He wasn't like he wasn't there for the paycheck like John Malkovich. He wasn't trying too hard like Eragon. He definitely he knew what kind of movie he was in, and he was gonna relish every second of it. Same with Jeremy Irons in a way. And yeah.
Okay. Actually, in defense of Eragon, I will say this: Eragon himself is not a bad protagonist.
No,
honestly, I would say that compared to someone like, say, Luke, I feel that he had a bit more promise. Like, he peaked a little early, but honestly, it didn't bother me that much because he, got his shit together and honestly was far from annoying throughout the entire film.
No, I could definitely agree with there. I mean, he didn't have anything like, I'm going to the Tashi station to pick up the power converters. He didn't have anything like that.
Like whatever the heck they did with Black Cauldron.
Or that too. Oh, Black Cauldron, wow. That's another uneven fantasy movie. Wow. But yeah, no, he's definitely not an annoying protagonist, but to me, my problem is that he's just not that very memorable. I mean, you could say it's the same like Percy Jackson, like that other one, Seventh Son, which is one we'll be reviewing sometime in the future. It just
what?
It's another fantasy movie that was an attempt to build a franchise and it kind of collapsed. Kind of like this, but less well known. But basically what it is the problem is, again, that these characters don't really stand out. I mean, Harry Potter, I'm going to be honest, the Harry Potter franchise are very hit and miss for me. Like, some of the movies are good, some of them are not so good. It's very, very up and down. But at least, you could say that you remember a lot of it. Whereas with this movie, it just feels like it's in and out, basically.
Yeah, the main issue is, and I don't know if that's from a bad script or bad directing or what, but everyone is just so bland, so forgettable, just
exactly
wooden.
Okay.
It feels like this is actually one of those kind of parody movies that you would see like Epic Movie or something, except this was the real movie.
This was actually trying.
Yeah.
It's actually trying.
It seems, like you said, it would be like something that Mel Brooks would do if you had like a few more jokes or like a Leslie Nielsen type of movie, but they're playing it completely straight. But
I mean,
there is
to be fair, something like, say, Dragonheart Vengeance would definitely have been honestly is better. Like,
it is. I would say that. I would go on and say Dragonheart Vengeance is a better movie than Eragon because. And even though that movie was made for probably like a quarter of the budget that this thing had, you could tell that movie had a lot of effort put into it. And it really just seemed like it had people who cared about it, who actually gave 150%. Whereas this movie was like made by a studio who wanted a big franchise. It was 20th Century Fox basically sitting down and going, we got to get some of that, Middle Earth money. We got to get some of that Harry Potter money. And it just, really did not work out for them because this movie wasn't a box office bomb per se. It actually did make money, but it really got critically, salvaged. And again, they wrote it in such a way to where they actually could not continue with the book's story, which I just kind of find hilarious in a way.
Yeah, honestly, if they had decided to go ahead with the sequel, I personally wouldn't have minded seeing.
I would have watched it. And seeing how they could improve it, they definitely left it open.
How they could definitely go in the direction that they were going, and like finding a way to make sure that things don't ultimately go to shit, like making their own universe, and honestly, the Lord of the Rings thing is kind of a bit of a stretch if you really, really think about it. Because, like, what other races are there other than freaking elves who were only mentioned and, like, those living corpse things called the Razak?
Zombie ninjas. And
they do mention
army,
dwarves.
Though? They do mention that. The Dwarf King.
An elf. and those barbarian people thing are absolutely
they are so much orcs. Exactly. You know what it is. As soon as I saw them, I'm like, oh, they tried marching into Helm's Deep, but they got lost on the way. That they totally 100% are orcs. But yeah,
they're honestly they're less orcs and more savage humans.
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, definitely, and like especially to me, the biggest tell that it was trying to be like Middle Earth was the ending sequence with Eragon waking up and he sees Saphira and they go out of the cave and the shot of like the mountains and the woods. It's like, oh, that is so trying to be the Middle Earth movies. With just how that shot was framed and everything, it definitely reminded me of when Frodo woke up and was greeted by Sam and Merry, Pippin, Gimli, and all of them. So yeah, but there was one part of this movie that Lord of the Rings did not have, and we're going to talk about her right now. Saphira. She's one of the best parts of the movie. She really is the reason I think most people even remember this movie. And I have to admit, especially for 2006, she looks incredible. That is some absolutely phenomenal CGI. I can definitely tell they put the money on the screen with her. Now, I'm not saying she's as good as Smaug would be later on in Desolate of Smaug, or even Narissa, but she definitely looks good. And Rachel Weisz is her voice actress. She's probably best known for being in The Mummy and The Mummy Returns, not The Mummy 3, which is one of the many reasons why that is not really a good movie. But her voice actor, but Rachel Weisz definitely is a great voice actress for Saphira because it really does work for the character. And of course, the part where she hatches and it's like a baby dragon is absolutely adorable. One thing I actually still remember is the entire theater saw like baby Saphira, and they all went, "Aww." I remember that. I actually remember that about the movie. That people were just amazed at how cute baby Saphira was.
I was a little hesitant. Like, don't get me wrong, I still found her cute, but there was a little tiny bit of uncanny valley with her design that I couldn't exactly overlook. And personally, as much as Saphira is honestly good for being a dragon that was just born recently, I have opinions. For starters, her thing. Okay. Before I continue with my opinions, hi Anvery, welcome to the podcast.
Okay, yeah.
Hello.
But yes, my opinions. Right? Okay, firstly, her character is a little middle of the road. She does she does give a shit. She does stand her ground sometimes. She is a little somewhat naive, but not to the extent where it's like, "Ooh, what that?" Ooh,
it's kind of like what happened with Sisu a little bit. Yeah,
or okay, even then it worked for Sisu because it had been for ages. But I'm really glad they didn't decide to do that for Sivith. Also, Izzy Glow, because dear lord,
that too. But yeah,
I don't hate her for that, but I don't really think it would have worked for Saphira. It sometimes gets tedious, yes. But anyways,
sound like a parrot.
Second thing,
that's exactly what I was gonna say. She's an exposition machine.
Yeah. Okay. Second, I feel the plot didn't really do well for her direction for the most part. It feels a little. She feels static but aimless, if that makes any sense. She's consistently noble. She consistently keeps a calm head despite everything, because telepathic dragon and all that shit. But the development just doesn't fully feel there, she remains consistent. She gets stronger. She learns new abilities, but as a character, does she really get better? Question mark. I mean, she kind of does. Don't get me wrong, but
I see where you're coming from.
Yeah. Okay. Thirdly, her design's a little. Her baby design is a little off. Like I said.
I gotta agree with that.
Like again, it's a little uncanny valley. It kind of got distracting, but when she got older, like really quick, like even faster than I do when I'm trying to level up dragon type Pokemon.
That always confused me because it always seemed like that was a time skip. The way they shot it with the phase in and phase out.
I like to imagine that it was a time
would have been
skip.
like a grown man or something, but the fact that it apparently happened in like a matter of seconds is definitely a choice.
I feel like a couple of days at most, but still it feels a little off. Like they did that really fast. Like, oh, here's a whole crap ton of EXP candies.
right, rare candies, exactly.
So you guys will love this.
Go ahead, guys. Sorry. Yep.
The reason that happened was, and I've heard this from several different people because I haven't read the book myself. In the book, it was mentioned that over the course of months, she grew up, and it, quote, seemed explosive, her growth. They went literal with that so that they could just do that really quick over the course of an afternoon rather than having to age their characters over months.
I mean, you could have done like a time skip, though. I mean, you didn't have to just do it like, oh, we need the dragon as an adult on screen. Let's do it in 2 seconds. Okay, there it is. Let's go. It's like, again, that shows that they really just wanted to get this out because you couldn't just have sat down and logically said, I mean, you didn't even have to show the time skip. All you had to do was you could have had the scene where Saphira goes, to Eragon and add a line in that's something like, oh, it's been a good couple of months. Just something like that, basically.
Yeah, I mean,
more sense than the way they did it.
In defense of the film, it could have very well happened, and it just gave the illusion of days.
Exactly. Yeah, I can kind of see that.
Yeah, but I don't really think it's like that.
But yeah, also one thing in the book that is interesting why they changed it for the movie. In the book, she had like leathery wings, kind of like I guess you'd say like Maleficent's or Narissa's or like even she had like leathery wings. Yeah, Civet, thank you. But here they made it feathered, and the reason why they did that was because of X-Men: The Last Stand. Apparently, they saw the character of Angel with like the wings and that, and they were like, "That's such an awesome effect. We have to do it for this movie."
Okay, in all fairness, I can kind of see why, and honestly, it kind of works for Saphira.
No, I do. Actually, I'm going to be honest with you. I agree. I actually like that she's a feathered dragon because that's something we do not get to see at all. Like, feathered dragons is a unique concept, I think.
And even if we do, it's more times associated with the wind element,
Yeah, not compared to like, a typical medieval type of dragon like Saphira.
Yeah.
Saphira definitely is a good character, and I do have to admit, as bad as the movie is, or mediocre as the movie is and such, the flying sequences are really cool. And the part, he could see through her eyes and see how exactly, basically the contours of the wind and stuff like that. That is so awesome. That is something that, again, I really feel like in a better movie, like if you could have really done something with that idea. It definitely was something that I feel it really could have worked. But again, they just didn't seem to have either the time, the money, or the drive. There was just something missing from it. The one part I do find kind of funny, again, is the part where he blames her or Eragon blames Saphira for his uncle's death because, I'm sorry, he just gets kind of really whiny in that sequence, and it's actually unintentionally hilarious, I feel.
Okay. It kind of is, but personally, I think that's the most that's the only part in the movie where it gets absolutely stupid for me. Like it just gets like what the shit, kid? Like seriously, she was trying to keep you safe, and honestly, it works both ways. I get his anger because she just wanted to keep him safe, and he couldn't save his uncle unless he was there. But like she was doing him a favor, and like she tells him to like, and then he tells her to like fuck off forever. And it's like, fucking hell, like that.
Exactly. That is something that really does not make sense within the thing of the film. It
when
definitely
that happened,
sorry.
When that happened, I was like, wow, this film is so bad. They decided to do the third act breakup in the first act. What the hell?
Well, thankfully that's about. Well, thankfully they got it out of the way there. So I will give them that it's not at. So I will give them that they didn't decide to do it in the third act. So
exactly. They gave. They got
honestly,
it out of the way.
I think first act breakups aren't necessarily a bad thing and need to honestly happen more, because let's be fair here. Like, we get third act breakups, some valid, some not so much, but we never really get
especially
them to
with like Pixar and Disney these days. It seems like every other movie has to have like a third act breakup, to the point where it's getting a little tedious. But I have to agree with you there. Doing it in like the first act was kind of unique, and I feel like, again, in a better movie, you definitely could have explored that a little bit more.
Yeah, a little bit more. Like even for this, like even for something like that would be like pretty unique. Like, he had just lost his dad and he told her to like heck off. Just like, what that's honestly clever the more you think about it.
It is. I mean, there is a way you could do it, but unfortunately, this movie was not very interested in that. I mean, they kind of did.
I mean, they kind of did explore it just a little bit with like the telepathic recall, that sort of thing. So I can't fault them too much for that. You know?
Yeah, no, I have no objection to first act breakups. The problem is they made this like it was a third act breakup, so it actually felt like they rushed it.
Yeah, exactly. I do like her relationship with Brahm. It's like, it's very noble, how basically she interacts with him. It's definitely one of the more unique parts of the movie. And one part that, again, I really do kind of like, and it, again, this movie isn't terrible. It's not like, it's not a 0 out of 10 or anything like that. It's not like Uwe Boll level or like, the Beast of Yucca Flats level bad or anything like that. But
I'm sorry, Uwe Boll? What?
Dr. Uwe Boll, the director of House of the Dead, In the Name of the King, and Dungeon Siege Tale. Basically, a lot of bad movies. But anyway,
House of the Dead?
He was behind.
That zombie movie. He did that. But getting back to this, the part where she basically takes Brahm up for one last flight while he's dying is really, really well done, and it actually is so heartbreaking in a way, and that is probably, to be honest with me, one of the better sequences of the film. Yeah. It's definitely that part. It definitely is a unique take on, like, of course, doing in The Wizard, which happens in a lot of fantasy movies, but this, I feel, did a version of it where they actually really, really stood out. But for the most part, to me, it seems like this movie is kind of formulaic. Saphira and Eragon go to some place and get ambushed. Rinse and repeat until the final battle. Although I will say this, the final battle itself is pretty cool. The way they do it, the way they do like the smoke dragons, the way, it's done. Yeah. It definitely is CGI. A lot of it is kind of obvious, but it is pretty cool. There is one major continuity error when Durza is killed, and it's one that, I'm not the kind of person who's like, oh, plot hole, ding, that kind of guy. But there's one thing that it's so obvious that they didn't really notice this. The arrow, Eragon fires it and it hits him in the forehead. Cut to the next shot. It's in the back of his head. It's like, you really didn't notice that?
Okay. Little bit of devil's advocate here. I think it works because, like, he probably didn't know. He probably saw it coming from the front, but he didn't really remember that, like, arrows can, like, pierce freaking heads. So,
exactly. Yeah, I can kind of see that. But like I said, I do like the idea of like the smoke dragons. I do like the basically the way it's shot is well done. The cinematography is pretty good. A little bit dark in some parts of that sequence. Yeah. That's the one thing I would change. Cinematography, it is kind of hard to look at, and I don't know why they did that. But I feel like with a little bit more lighting in the scene, it would be very, very well done. And of course, they have the fake out ending of her being hurt, but she turns out she's okay, and her and Eragon basically ride off into the sky to an adventure that would never happen. It does have a cool sequel hook. I will say that. It definitely has one of the better, sequel hooks that it had, where, Galbatorix, John Malkovich's character, basically gets pissed. He cuts open the map and he reveals his own giant black dragon. And it's like, oh man, that is so cool. But again, never made a sequel, so we'll never get to see it. They are apparently making a mini-series, an Eragon mini-series for Disney Plus. And when it comes out, we are 100% going to review it. And it definitely is. Yeah, it definitely. I feel like this has potential. The story itself has potential. And I feel, to be honest, a mini-series for it might work out a little better because then you can explore more about the backstory between the dragons and their riders and why they basically all went extinct.
Yeah.
You could do more about Saphira's relationship with Eragon and Brahm and that. You can really, I feel, especially with today's like TV budgets, you definitely could make a good version of it. And I wish them the best of luck with it.
Yeah,
Wasn't the Eragon movie?
I really hope it turns out good, and I really, really hope that, again, we don't get another repeat of this, where this isn't, like I say, bad, but
it's not bad. It's not.
It's a background movie, like we said earlier. It's a 5 out of 10. It's like you had so much potential to be more than what you were. But again, sort of like with Raya and the Last Dragon, Saphira is a really great dragoness in a not so good movie, in my opinion.
Anvery, what'd you say? It wasn't Eragon what?
I said, sorry?
Anvery, what'd you say?
Wasn't that movie like...
Okay, all right, let's get to the question of the week then, which is, what book-to-movie adaptations were you disappointed in, and why? And I'll say one that I liked as a kid, then when I actually read the books and I went back to it, I kind of got a little over it, because I feel like it did its own thing, but I think it did too much of its own thing, and that's the A Series of Unfortunate Events with Jim Carrey. Now, again, it's not a bad movie. It definitely is a good one. But when you compare it to the books, it really, really is like, what is this? They take so many liberties with it. Jim Carrey is basically doing a lot of his, Jim Carrey shtick, which, even by 2005, I think we can all agree was getting a little bit old. I mean, now we miss him, of course, but back then. But yeah, I do have to agree that the cinematography, the set design for the movie is good. Like, the music is good, even some of the performances. But man, I just feel like looking back at it now, it's like you definitely had potential for it to be good, and I feel like you just kind of missed the mark. I have not seen the Netflix miniseries, so I can't really comment about that. But
I can, however. Okay, real talk. I prefer the movie over the series. I love the series was good. It was interesting. It was unique. It had Patrick Warburton as Lemony Snicket, which was very unique. But I feel the budget shined in places where it really shouldn't.
Had like that kind of TV budget issue.
Yeah, TV streaming budget issue.
Yeah.
However,
okay.
And another thing, I will personally say that A Series of Unfortunate Events movie had the best reptile room. I loved the reptile room.
I said, the set design was really cool on it. Yeah. I will say that, like, the actual design of the locations are very, very well done.
Yeah, I mean, even in the new one, the reptile room was pretty good, but like, compare that to what we got in the movie, and holy fuck, man, I felt more for that one than I did for the new one.
And the whole fake out with the...
I can definitely say, because they have a theatrical budget compared to a TV one. There's only so much you could probably do with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what other book-to-movie adaptations were you kind of disappointed by, would you say?
I personally have no idea. I loved all the Harry Potter movies. Like, even the ones that were sort of meh were very interesting. I also I only saw one of the Percy Jackson movies and loved that. But gosh. Hell, even the Bad Guys. I was not disappointed with that one.
Bad Guys is amazing. Bad Guys is one of the best, I feel. That is incredible how they did that.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm going to do a technical here.
Okay, go ahead.
There is one movie in the Shrek franchise that I personally was like, it had its moments, but yeah, I loved the first three. They were great. They were fun. The spin-off was amazing. Hell, even my mom likes the third one, as divisive as that one was.
Wow.
But yeah, four is ultimately where things got a little
yeah, I can kind of see that.
Midlife crisis.
Yeah, I don't.
It's a Wonderful Life
I was
type
disappointed
story.
in it, but I can't say I absolutely hated it. You know?
I see. Yeah.
It was definitely disappointing, but not to the extent that I didn't have my fun where it didn't happen. You know?
Exactly. Yeah, no, I understand. A lot of people probably don't even know, and again, we'll do that in September when we do the Shrek movies. The Shrek book is so not like the movie that it's really almost a completely unique thing. It has like almost nothing to do with the movie that we got. But but it's still great. It's still a fun little time. And the movie is, of course, way better than the book. But it's a fun time. Yeah.
For crying out loud, the book had Shrek pull a fucking Glock at the sky and eat a freaking lightning bolt. How do you go from that to freaking media and fairy tale satire? Like, holy shit.
Exactly. They definitely took creative liberties, but that was one time where it was good. So anyway, Mathmachine, what would you have to say? Any book to movie adaptations that you were kind of disappointed by?
First, Eragon is 15 years old, to answer a question that was asked earlier.
Wow.
Second, as far as ones I'm disappointed with, I can't really think of any. There's one that I really did like, though. That's what I was more thinking about.
Go ahead. Yeah, by all means.
A lot of people would say stuff like Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, etc., yada yada, or even like Holes for its accuracy.
Yeah.
The one that I really liked, it just came out too. My Father's Dragon. Loved that book as a kid. Thought that Cartoon Saloon did a great job of animating it for the.
I have not heard of it. I would definitely have to check that out.
It's one of those very, you can tell it's a very, it's a mid-1900s children's book kind of story. So it's one of those, you've seen this kind of stuff before, but it's just very well done and very well animated, I think.
Oh, well, Cartoon Saloon. I mean, that alone is a sign of quality right there.
I'm sorry, which book are you talking, which movie are you talking about?
My Father's Dragon.
Oh, yeah. I've been meaning to see that one.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Probably Cartoon Saloon's weakest movie, but that's still pretty high
That's not saying much.
Like, compare it to Song of the Sea. Yeah, I think I can see where you're going, but I definitely want to see that movie now.
Yeah, me too. That definitely sounds like it's a good time. So, LuckyEevee, would you have to say anything about any book to movie adaptations?
Well, I've watched approximately one.
Okay.
Oh, yeah?
And that was Percy Jackson.
Okay, any thoughts on that?
That was so long ago that I cannot tell you anything about it.
Oh, no, I understand.
Like,
believe me, believe it or not,
kid.
Yeah. Believe it or not, until like for this podcast, I have not seen Eragon since that time in 2006 Christmas. Believe it or not, this was the first time watching it since then. Aside from like catching it on TV for like 15 minutes or something.
I hadn't seen it since I was in elementary school.
Yeah.
I forget if it was second or third grade, but yeah.
Yep. So anyway, it is now time for the patent pending Dragoness Scale, where we rank the Dragoness, female dinosaur, etc. of the episode from 1 to 10. And today we're, of course, doing Saphira. I am going to be generous. I am going to give her maybe I can in good conscience give her an 8 out of 10, so I'll give her a 7 out of 10. I really like the design. I really think Rachel Weisz is a good voice actress. I feel like what they do with her does kind of knock her down a couple of points. Like, I feel like they should have given her a bit more, say, dialogue or a bit more things to do.
A bit more development.
Exactly. And the fact that she is an exposition machine at points definitely does kind of hurt her, but she honestly has some of the best scenes in the film, and she, again, is the only reason that the movie is memorable, basically. Without it, I feel like this movie would be as forgotten as something like, say, the 2000 Dungeons and Dragons movie, or Seventh Son, or tens of the other thousands of fantasy movies based on books that tried to become franchises but failed. But Saphira definitely is a good character with a good design and a good voice. What they do with her hurts it, but as a whole, I definitely feel like she has a lot of potential, and I'm interested in seeing how they'll do her in this new Disney Plus miniseries. Okay, Angron, what would you have to say?
Okay. So, I agree for the most part with what you're saying. Her design, when she's not a baby, is pretty great. And honestly, the more I think about it, the more the little baby design kind of reminds me a bit of like Zim from fricking Dragon Prince. Yeah. And again, I do think that Saphira definitely showed a lot of promise as well. She had her good moments. She did stuff when the plot needed it, and when like it was actually needed. And I also and I also think that and I also felt very much sorry for her and Eragon near the end of the movie, because like they fought so hard, and that fight with the Dark Dragon was awesome, and like
really
that
well
was
done.
terribly close. I will say that much. That being so, yeah. With all that said, I am kind of gonna go a little higher. If not a 7 out of 10, then I might give her an 8 out of 10. Again, I agree that she's a great character in a decent movie, but that's because I was a little more lenient and a little more willing to understand going into this movie, and I honestly wasn't disappointed with watching the movie. I can't say the same for films like, say, Reanimated, which I remember loving as a kid, but watching it again, why did I like it? But yeah, this movie was not that.
Everybody has
Was
those
not
movies.
that. Oh, by the way, Anvery, your movie your book movie that you felt disappointed in, and your thoughts.
So,
okay, Mathmachine, what would you have to say?
Oh,
anyway, the book and movie
about Saphira, what score would you give her?
Dude,
Saphira?
Anvery speaking.
Sorry. Sorry about that. Whoops.
Yeah. The book to movie adaptation that I was kind of disappointed in, but how it is now when it first was released is entirely different. Basically, How to Train Your Dragon.
Oh,
wow,
okay.
That's an unusual answer.
But cover to cover, and the book series had a very fun series of events and was very fun. And while the movie is not at all like the books, in some similarities, at least in the first book, what ends up happening in the books and what happens in the show is completely different after the first movie. Like, it completely goes into different paths.
Yeah.
And especially considering the fact that the dragon that Hiccup gets is entirely different as well. Because Toothless in the books was actually a small green baby dragon.
Right, I remember that. I think I had some of the books.
Yeah,
actually.
I remember that. And I remember they didn't explode the Red Death; they just sneezed it or something like that, if I recall correctly.
Definitely more childlike than the movies.
Yeah, but I understand. Yeah, anyway. I understand, yeah. The How to Train Your Dragon movies were definitely unique in that regard. The third movie was where things got a little dicey, but I do still like that movie. Yeah, but anyways, and now your thoughts on Saphira.
Saphira, 5, probably 4 out of 10, because I've actually played a video game to where they do her arc, an arc that like hers, way better. And way better impact.
What's it called?
Aurene from Guild Wars 2.
Whoa, really?
Wow, I did not know that.
Repeat that one more time.
Aurene from Guild Wars 2, where you take a baby dragon and they do eventually become an exposition thing, but they take time with it.
Oh, fuck. I want to play Guild Wars 2 now, man.
Same. Wow, that sounds great.
You get yourself an egg, and then it becomes a baby dragon, and that baby dragon grows up. And then eventually, when she's an adult, she starts talking to you, and she is one hell of a powerhouse.
I want to play Guild Wars 2 now. It's been ages since I played that game. I want to fucking play it now.
Same. That sounds awesome.
No, you do need the expansion for it.
I'm sorry, what?
I will say this: you need expansions in order to play it.
Worth every fucking dollar.
Yeah. So sorry about trying to take away your thing like that. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
I didn't hear you before that. Sorry about that. Okay.
To be fair, we didn't expect Anvery to be part of the podcast.
Yeah,
but
that's
happy
why.
accidents.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's definitely great to have you here.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Again, sorry about talking over you like that. So, Mathmachine, now what would you have to say?
I'm gonna say, and I'm being as generous as I can with this, a 4. There's something about the way that she was designed. I just do not like the feathery wings on a dragon. They just seemed off to me. I appreciate that they did try something different, but it just didn't work for me. She had no character. She was literally just a parrot. She just repeated exposition points, and that was it. She had no real personality. She had no real presence. There was nothing bad or offensive about her, but it was just one of those cases of there's just nothing really to latch on to either.
Okay, counterpoint. I didn't really hear her repeat too many plot points, honestly. Like she didn't like I think there were like 1 or 2 moments where that happened, but like honestly, she was just like doing her own thing, you know?
I kind of get what you're saying, but at the same time, it's just like she didn't really give anything to the story. I've seen some versions where people actually just edited out all of her dialogue, kept everything else the same, and she kind of had more presence in that, which is weird.
Wow.
Even the Nostalgia Critic, oddly enough, did the same thing. Honestly, though, again, I really didn't mind her talking that much. I mean, it would have robbed Rachel Weisz of a role, and that wouldn't have been fair, you know?
Exactly. So, LuckyEevee, what would you have to say for Saphira?
I like how she looks. 8 out of 10.
Okay, so what ranking would you give her, basically?
I just said 8 out of 10.
Oh, so sorry, I didn't hear that part. So. Okay, all right, that's good. 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10, huh?
That's,
nice.
Wow.
Yeah, she has a unique design. I like that.
Yeah, same.
Exactly. So, if you have any questions, or if you want to talk about how bad Mummy Tomb of the Dragon Emperor is, feel free to email us at fierydiscourse@outlook.com or visit us on Twitter at twitter.com/fierydiscourse. Next time, we'll be talking about the 1996 episode of Quack Pack, Leader of the Quack. Until then, take care.
Peace.
So,
wait, what was that you were saying about Mummy Tomb of the Dragon Emperor? Like, imagine if like that cuts off and it's just like.
All right, thanks so much for listening, and until next time, take care.
Peace.